the last panel of the day is also discussing a very important topic, that is data, that sometimes is as precious as money, as sometimes even more precious than money. So open governance, data governance, open data and other issues related to digital development will be the topics of this panel. So I'm happy to introduce you to the moderator, Jiahua Xu, Executive Director of the UK Centre for Blockchain Technology and Associate Professor at UCL. And the panelists are Professor Ettore Maria Lombardi from the University of Florence, Odun Olowookere, that you already had a chance to see today at a panel, and Alexandr Polorotov from Datanomix. Welcome on stage.
Yeah, so yesterday, in my amazing closing remarks, not that I said it, a lot of people said that to me, that I confessed I ran into a payment issue with a taxi, right? So today, I think in this exact panel, we can come back and look at that problem. So, you know, the problem wasn't really the technology. The technology was there. I have a phone. The taxi driver has a phone. I have a banking system. He has the banking system. There's something that's beyond that. On top of that, it's probably standardization and data sharing. Then that is exactly the topic that we can cover, and the panelists can help us with today. Since everybody is a little bit sleepy, I'm gonna copy Nikhil's strategy of doing a quick poll. It's going to be very simple, trust me. So, hands up if you have a banking app. Great. Okay, so wait, keep your hands up. So, keep your hands up, but keep your hands up if you know how to revoke access or how to remove data from this banking app. What I want to say is, do you know how to ask the bank to forget about you? Oh, not too bad. I see a few savvy people, my colleagues who are very savvy. These days, you might, not sure. For compliance issues, ChatGPT usually refuse to talk. Let's see if they will. But that is exactly my point. And you can see here, a lot of people, they have a banking app, but they don't really know how kind of to control their data. They don't know how to ask the bank to forget about their data, right? So this is where the expertise, our panelists, lie. And here I want to introduce the panelists again. So we have Professor Ettore Lombardi, who teaches private law and digital society law in Florence. Odun Olowookere, pronounce your name correctly, research director for the digital economy at CIGI in Canada. And Alexandr Polorotov, co-founder of Datanomix, a data and analytics house, whose team also built Red Flags, a tool that catches procurement fraud with AI. So I'm going to start from you, Alex. Your own research found that 2/3 of AI projects in Kazakhstan collapse for just one reason: the data. So they're either missing, disorganized, ungoverned. So before we say anything ambitious about, you know, open banking, standardization, just you give us an honest picture. Who actually controls this data? And when you go into an institution, who actually owns the data? Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Fine. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'd like to start from a simple observation about general purpose technologies. So, as you know, there is a list of them. Yeah, the technologies that change our lives. And there is a list. So the number one is, for example, electricity, internet, generative AI. And I'm sure that there is one missing value here in that list, and it's Excel spreadsheets. Because of when I look in any industries and in any company, bank, financial institute, etc., if we deep dive into the analytical layer and decision-making layer, it's also a shock absorber here, a human who calculate the data, who make the perfect Excel file with the calculation, who define the correct metrics and use all beautiful complex formula in Excel. And it's no matter which data platform are any customer implement. It's no matter in which regulation are we talking about. It's always about that across the departments, I see that experts inside the organization exchange their insights using Excel. So, and that's why I think it's general purpose technology, because everyone knows what is Excel, etc. But at the same time, what I see that in the past years, dozens of years, every consultant preach, and me too, preached the same way that we should become data-driven and let's implement some master data management system, etc., etc., etc. And I see that the AI changed the game, because for now, problem in in any report, it's not some kind of a silent killer of the organization. For now, because of GPT and chat-like interface, I see that data quality started to not some kind of a silent killer. It's pop up in organization to the top managers, because top managers ask their technical team, hey, bring me chat interface over our data lake house, warehouse, and other things. I want to chat with the data. And because top managers start chat with the data, I see that the data quality problem has a price tag now for a top managers. Before, it was some kind of a silent thing. That only one people inside the organization know that, I see that in Excel there is a problem and I know how to fix it, etc., etc. And yeah, that's what I see.
Thanks for the insight, Alex. I think you give us insight on the operational layer of things. I just want to summarize it real quick. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like in the organization, a lot of teams will get their hands dirty in data, and in legacy systems, this is obviously unsustainable, and it produces just really, really unorganized data, same as I read from your research, right? And so my question stays, like, who actually, from a legal perspective, perhaps, who actually owns this data? Because we hear a lot of, those campaigns saying that, our customer owns the data, we protect our customers' privacy. But at the end of the day, we also see that a lot of people can actually, have access to this data. Even in one organization, it just gets all over the place. A lot of different teams have the data, can have access to data. So I guess as a law expert, Ettore, I'm going to ask you this question: who do you think actually owns the data? Or perhaps even, let's take a step back, is ownership even the right concept there when we are talking about data?
Yeah. So, Joe, thank you for the question, and I would like to thank as well the organizer of this event. It is great. P2P events and the National Bank of Kazakhstan. So thank you very much for inviting me. For me, it's an honor here. So let me be a lead a moment professor, and I would like to distinguish very briefly the difference between ownership and property, because there are two concepts that are completely different, in the sense that ownership is the right and property are the goods. So if we are speaking about data, we are speaking about something that is dematerialized, and the influence of dematerialization is regarding both the right and the good. So that's very important for understanding as well the concept of property and right, in terms of right, because the question was who owns data. But I would like to have as well another step back that is very important for me, that is the digitization and digitalization. So here we have a different concept that is very, very important. Why? Because digitization is something that we are doing, for example, with stablecoin. We are transforming something that is material in something that is dematerialized. while digitalization is a process of transforming the workflow of manual activity in something that is more digitalized. So that's something completely different. So we are speaking about ownership, property, dematerialization, digitization, and something very important for me to analyze today, very briefly, of course, don't worry, because we didn't speak at all about this concept, is sustainability. Why? Because yesterday, one of the speakers spoke about data center and said, data center in Kazakhstan are very important to be placed because it's a cool place. Not cool, fancy, it's as well fancy, but cool because it's cold. So that's the problem of data centers. So how to cool down the data centers that will be more and more in place, active, and let's speak about quantum intelligence. Quantum intelligence will ask a lot of energy and a lot of activity to cool data centers. So why I want to speak about data centers? Because it's something related as well to liability. So the damages, for example, caused to environment, that's why sustainability, to society as well, and to economy in general. So what is that? Nothing more than CSR, corporate social responsibility, ESG, environmental social governance, SDG, so sustainable development goals. So data centers are involving sustainability 100%, and it's very, very important to consider this profile, and I underline it in terms of intergenerational liability, responsibility, accountability, and I'm making reference, of course, to Brundtland report of 1987 that everyone knows. So coming back to digitalization, dematerialization, so I see here a very strong change of the concept of ownership and property. And indeed, I qualified it with three concepts. That is a lack of material property, a lack of unique possession, because everyone can possess everything in the same moment, and it's something that is revolutionary, because property was the dominion of a guy or a person on a thing. So we are changing completely this parameter. And a lack of apprehension, because we don't apprehend a Bitcoin, a data, or something like this. Not at all. So that's why it can circulate. So the advantage of this situation are, for sure, an easier use, an easier transfer, an easier circulation, an easier possession, but there are as well disadvantages that are an easier possibility to apprehend data, and that's the violation profile. And we have as well an easier possibility to violate data, because if something is dematerialized, can circulate more easily, and we can apprehend and violate it easier. So we need something that is protection, and how to protect data. So first of all, I would consider more a liability accountability profile, and then an ownership profile, because we can say Ettore Lombardi is the owner of all the data that is transferring, but let's see in case of violation of what is happening. So that's the lawyerish part that is taking place, and in my mind. And that's the issue, is not so much the transfer of ownership, but what happens in case of violation. Because you can say, Ettore, if you want to use this app, you have to transfer data. I give a consent, I transfer you the data, but what about the violation of this data? That's the problem, in my humble view. And how we can solve this issue? So we have two paths. The first path is the subjective liability, so based on negligence, recklessness, and so forth. The second one is the strict liability. Strict liability is much more protective for the person that has a violation. And what is important in this case is that is involving not just the violator, that can be a bank, can be an app, can be Amazon, whatever, but as well, in my humble view, the regulator, because the supervisor shall control how data is circulating, and shall apply the measures that are protecting really the data. So this one is the path that very briefly I wanted to describe. Sorry if I was too long. So to answer your question, in my humble view, it's not important who is the owner, but who is responsible of the violation. And I said, so for I said, it can be the bank, it can be the app, it can be, yeah.
Yeah, so it can be all these actors. Of course, we diagnose on the case by case basis. And probably, Odun, you could add to that how the state could play a role here, because ultimately, the rules are written by the state, and you have expertise in sovereignty. So I want to also hear your view on
Yes.
this.
What I'm going to be saying is going to just be an addition to what Ettore has quite elaborately emphasized on. So, if the issue with having public infrastructure here is it needs to have create room for innovation. And with innovation comes risks, the risk that he has outlined. So there needs to be some form of regulation by design. So the regulation needs to be imbibed into the design such that it's easy to allocate liability. So for example, if the intermediary here is a custodian, is an API or is a bank, there needs to be a way to attach and easily fix liability if there's any data breach. Because of this complexity, I anticipate a situation where there will be a new regulatory class of custodians with a unique set of regulations and with a unique set of liability structure too, because it might be difficult to pinpoint where damage was done or where loss occurred. So everything Ettore says needs to be worked into the designs of this system such that they are practical and they are workable. So yes.
Thank you very much. And I want to get back to Ettore on this liability issue, because you just elaborated on liability and duty regarding kind of data sharing, data flow. And I know that you've been writing something also about this, and you've been studying this for years. So as we know that Europe has been building kind of data financial data access APIs, and then there has been follow-up laws, but still in terms of governance has been stuck in negotiation for years. So just wondering, what is your view on this, and why is this easier to build but so difficult to get it put into place to implement?
Are you speaking about financial data access
Yes.
Regulation? Okay. Yes. So, well, as well in this case, the circulation. So, what is FIDA? Just to explain, everyone knows, but I would like to be more clear. So, it's a regulation that provides the expansion of the opening banking, transferring it as well to the financial system. That's said in very short words. So what is important in this case is always a concept, in my humble view, that is duty of care. So as well the transferring, as well the circulation of this information shall be based on concept of accountability, political profile, liability, technical profile, and therefore a duty of care that is the source of this kind of liability. And as well in this case, very important is the distinction between a subjective liability, that is the one that FIDA expressed, and the objective liability or strict liability. The situation, I would like to describe the situation that we have with an example. So I wrote recently an article in Milano Finanza. Milano Finanza is a very important newspaper of finance and economy at the European level. And I spoke probably for the first time about this concept that is the responsible prompting. What is responsible prompting? So probably it's something that is quite innovative, I don't know. So everyone thinks about the output and the black box, right? But we have to think as well about the input. So what we are putting inside the artificial intelligence machine to obtain a certain result. So when we have this result, who is responsible of this result if it's used by the person? So who is creating the input? Who is using the input? The black box, so the machine, the creator of the machine. That's a problem of liability that is very, very strong. So that's why the responsible prompting is something that we can use as well in the sharing data. When we share data and we let circulate and transfer from the banking system to the financial system, we know what we are doing in terms of outcome, but we have to as well understand which one are the consequences, so the input of our actions. So that's why we have to increase always the threshold of liability, always in terms of subjectivity, objectivity, and making responsible. I know that I say something in a regulator like the National Bank of Kazakhstan, but it's important as well to be responsible, liable regulators, because just in this way you can assure the real application of measures that can be effective, in my view. Regarding the European system, and then I come as well to the Kazakhstan system. Regarding the European system, the problem that we have is that we have two layers of authorities. We have a national one and we have an European one. So for example, in the banking sector, we have the Central Bank of Europe and we have the European Banking Authority at the European level, while at the national level, for example, in Italy, we have Banca d'Italia and Consob. So who is responsible in case of violation? We have to understand which one is the rule that is violated, European level, national level, and eventually operate in a coordination between the European and the Italian level. And that's applicable in all Europe. Regarding Kazakhstan, and I close my remarks, very important is the example of PIX. So before our colleague from Brazil spoke about the open banking, so the fact that there is a real situation in Brazil, well, the financial system and banking system are working together, making it very easy to pay and so forth, and free. In Kazakhstan, for sure, the Brussels effect can be very strong. So FIDA can be a parameter to use, but I consider this area of the world very important as well because can differentiate our parameters, the European one, and subjectivize it. So make them more harmonized to the system and the workflow of data. So in this regard, I look more at BRICS, because probably BRICS is a system that is less harmonized than the European one, but can have some features that are more applicable, for example, to Kazakhstan. That's why I made the example of BRICS, Brazil and PIX.
Thank you very much. I just want to pick up the responsible prompting thing. I think here we have the technology expert Alex here. That there are actually regulations, or perhaps voluntarily or enforced by regulation. The technology companies are already trying to enforce that from a technology level. If you are inputting irresponsible prompts, you wouldn't get the answer, or you might be flagged or for or whatever mechanism. But of course, I understand that there's also you can also enforce on users to have responsible prompting as well. It is you can, but whether it's enforceable or not, I'm not sure. But perhaps Alex, you can add a little bit to that as a technology expert.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what I see from technical perspective, if we're talking about open banking and open data, API, etc., and other things, it's not a huge problem, to organize access to the data. I mean, if we have data platform and we want to provide access to some kind of data, it's not a technical problem. It's more about, as I said before, how to organize governance, which metrics should we need to show to particular user, for example, and which access and level of details for any business domain do we need to show. And from that perspective, to protect data, we need rules that was incorporated in access process to the data, and I see that it's not a technical problem anymore. Yeah, for dozens of years, it's more about how to again make a governance metric layers inside the organization that, okay, for example, my balance is my balance, and I know how to calculate it, and how many active customers do we have in our organization, how to calculate it, because I like the question to any bank. For example, if you ask how many active customers do you have in your retail, you will have many versions of the active customers, because it depends on which side of business do you ask it. And it's the same for the AI technology and other users of the data that we want to connect to our open data API, etc. And yeah, I see that we need to focus on the boring stuff, like how to make these metric definitions layer correctly.
Thank you very much. You said that technology is advancing and there's little technological problems anymore. But what I see as a problem is inclusion. Although the technology itself is mature, a lot of people do not, unfortunately, have access to technology. So here I want to discuss a little bit about open banking's kind of financial inclusion. Maybe Odun, you can shed some lights on that. So is that really just open banking? Is that just a app with a nicer app for people who's already privileged, or is it actually helping with financial inclusion?
Okay, so originally it was supposed to help with financial inclusion through the principle of data minimization, where you don't require as much information from people to onboard. But it's been overtaken or been dominated by the other ideology of open banking, which is portability. Now we see the emphasis and over-reliance on the ability to transfer your financial data from one institution to another. And that's understandable, right? It facilitates competition amongst banks for customers. So Bank A wants Bank B's customers, so they try to design new services that would attract more customers. But who I see benefiting from this is the credit bureaus and the SMEs, that's the small and medium enterprises that need better services. So unless the data minimization angle can be emphasized on more, then perhaps we could have more inclusion. But as of right now, I don't see much inclusion. All I see is just competition for the existing customers that have been onboarded. I'll give an example. So in Canada, my home jurisdiction, we have, because open banking has become a very charged terminology, the legislation is called Consumer-Driven Banking Act. Where in that name would you think the contents would have something of open banking? It doesn't seem that way, but I mean, it's a nice name, catchy name. Consumers want to drive their banking services. But when you open the act, all you find is just portability frameworks. You have a new regulatory category. You have provisions for how you can transfer your data, your financial transactions from your existing service provider to another. And the inclusion has been put in the back seat so far, so we need more work done in that area. Yeah.
I myself, I work in blockchain and DeFi, and blockchain and DeFi, they always tell themselves as a kind of, try to drive financial inclusion. I think a lot of banks are trying to adopt this technology by launching tokenized deposits, which we also discussed at breakfast today. So just want to settle this this debate. So what's your view on tokenized deposits? Are they promising, or is it just a gimmick, or can they truly compete with DeFi? What do you think?
Okay, I don't think we're going to settle this argument anytime soon. But I think it's just the financial intermediaries in existence now trying not to, lose deposits. So a lot of research has been done in that area that shows that stable coins and private wallets would have an effect, a deleterious effect on existing deposits. I don't think tokenized deposits can successfully compete unless the intermediaries do some heavy lobbying, which I see happening. So we find a situation where they're co-opting the technology and using it for their own unique purposes. Another thing worth mentioning is it appears as though the open banking framework is more compatible with tokenized deposits than it is with blockchain technology, and that's the existing financial intermediaries, doing their thing at the end of the day. I don't see on a fair level playing ground tokenized deposits versus stable coins and private wallets. I don't think tokenized deposits would win, but a big but here, the lobbying and the fact that the influence that the existing financial intermediaries have and the fact that they're extremely adverse to the competition that these alternative forms of payments and digital assets pose to them would probably make them use alternate means to have their way. So, yeah.
Thanks for your view. Speaking of our debate, we had another debate I want to bring to the audience as well, which is this concept of portability embedded in open banking. So the idea of open banking is that your information should be more easily portable through banks. This sounds like a nice vision, but a lot of people perhaps don't even want portability. They probably want a fresh start. For example, when I myself apply for my visa, right, I deliberately use one set of bank transactions as opposed to other, just to make sure that it looks nice and clean and understandable. I'm not going to tell you exactly why, but with open banking, if you want to port everything into a different bank, would that take away kind of the opportunity for a fresh start? And Ettore, what do you think of this from a legal perspective?
Yeah, so, frankly speaking, I haven't understood exactly the question. So, open banking? Sorry,
one of the benefits of open banking is portability, right? You can go from
sure. That's understood.
Yes, but however, sometimes I don't want complete portability.
Okay.
Sometimes I want a fresh start for various reasons.
Yeah, sure. So probably you want to make reference as well to concept of privacy?
Privacy and also data control. Consumers, they might want to just select. I want my part of my data to be associated with this institution and part of it associated with that institution.
That's
many things.
That's the point.
That's not to be discussed here.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it depends on what the data that are circulating. So, of course, Paolo is right, and as well, Christina. So, if I have to apply for something and there are requested specific features or specific data, I don't know what I have to hide, for example. So it depends on the use of the data. So that's why it's not very clear. So if you want to generalize, and you want to say, Ettore, there is a problem of privacy in the circulation of data, which one can be the measures that we can use? Yes, I can tell you we can use as a parameter the GDPR, because it was very used all over the world. The Brussels effect was very strong in this measure, as much as the AI Act. But of course, if we want to use something, we have to share data. And I used to use this example with my students. So as you noticed, we passed, speaking about the cell phones, we passed from the digit opening of the cell phone to the face opening of the cell phone. Why there was this change? Because they had already our fingerprint, billions of fingerprints, so they don't need it anymore. And so they need something more, some more data. So what should you do? Shall I use or not the iPhone or all the devices in this way? It's up to you. And so if you want to be isolated, you can be isolated. You live in a monastery.
That is exactly my question. I mean, when it's very nice if it's still an option. I'm just. I guess the question is, would that be imposed when for example, when entirety.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Sorry, Java. No, it's indirectly imposed, because if you have to use something,
of course,
you have to share. But there are sites that before they were free. Now they are not free anymore. So I choose, I want to pay and I share data. I don't want to pay and I don't use this app, I will try something else. So it depends on the real usage that you want to do of the app or the technology and so forth, and the data that you can share. The problem is, and I tell you, I don't want to repeat myself because I don't want to appear boring. It's not the consent in general, it's the real consent, the consciousness of the consent. So if I have a clear consciousness of what I'm doing, giving my consent and having access to some application and sharing my data, that's the real problem. And what is the way to solve these issues? Knowledge. If I am aware of what I'm doing, if I have the knowledge of what I'm doing, the regulation, tendentially the system, the ecosystems that are applicable and so forth, I can be more conscious, aware of what I'm doing, and I can protect myself much more, better. So that's why a way of communication and information like the internet, the web are fundamental. And that's why Odun was speaking about as well circulation of information and so forth, protection of consumer and so forth. You can be a real consumer if you are aware of what you are, your position as a consumer. That's knowledge.
Thank you very much. I want to,
add to that?
yeah, but please go ahead.
So what you're asking is, even though it makes me worry about you a bit, but
She wanted legal advice for free, in my opinion. That's the question. But I will let you pay anyway.
So I think a combination of tools can help you achieve what you want. So if there's, you've mentioned it.
For people who want to hide partial transaction history.
Yes.
Out there.
Sorry,
Not necessarily
don't
me.
quote me. So if you have an API that has the option to be forgotten, which you mentioned built in, you could have, if your current service provider allows you to separate your transactions however you want, and then you highlight particular Excel spreadsheets with your current expense accounts that you want protected, and you say, forget this, and import this, then that could help you achieve what you want, right? So this, your question actually leads to something else, the opportunity for more competition in this field. You find a situation where certain service providers would want to provide this for people like you that want to be forgotten, not forgotten, selective amnesia on certain expenses that you don't want to move to another service provider. So that could help you.
Exactly. Well, I know what we are all thinking, and yesterday we talked about kind of fraudulent activities and financial crimes and so on and so forth. But there can be legitimate, reasons to hide certain transactions. You might not want to know if you're using if you're buying a certain medication. You might not want to know. You might not want your employer know in case of discrimination and so on and so forth. There are a lot of reasons, right? So just there are actually legitimate reasons. I just want to highlight that. And when I'm speaking of medication, that also reminds me of my experience with the NHS, the amazing national health provider in the UK. Actually, when with NHS, they promise that they don't have to check your visa status if you do need the treatment, which is extremely nice. And that is in contradiction to the current trend of digital ID, when perhaps the idea is one ID will be linked to kind of everything you have. But in some circumstances, there's kind of a need to keep certain things kind of separate. There's a certain need to have the data siloed. That's my opinion. I don't know what the panelists think about this. I'll go with Alex to give you a little bit more speaking minutes.
Can you please repeat the question? Yeah, I just lost
I guess the
in the
question,
middle. Yeah.
Sorry, I guess the question is sometimes we're talking about kind of data governance. Sometimes we want the data to be a little bit more siloed as opposed to more linked. And what is your opinion towards that? Is there in terms of technology, privacy preserving techniques, and also in terms of regulation, how we can enforce this. So just in terms of kind of data segregation.
Yeah. Okay. So what I see again that from this perspective, I see that AI agent forced, for example, me forced to share all the data that I have inside the AI agent. It could be Claude code, etc., etc. And in my opinion, and just it's a story about me, it's okay for me. Please know everything about me. That's fine, because I see that I have more benefits about that than any, some evil things like, oh, someone will stole my data, etc., etc. Okay, nothing to hide, just use it, etc. But at the same time, what I see, for example, regarding the last update in Claude, for example, I have interactive broker account, and I can link my interactive broker account, it's a brokerage service, to the Claude, for example. And it can generate orders in interactive brokers. And here, what I see that it's good that in interactive brokers we have a button that should I make this order or not. So it's some kind of a permission. So, and I see that it's, story about case by case. In some case, it's okay for me that use all my data, do actions, I mean AI agent, please do action, etc. Get all my bank information, etc. And from other side, in the case where I see that it's a huge, effect to my financial account, for example, it's better to ask me, are you sure that you want to do that or this kind of action? Yeah.
To sum up, consent is key. It's always it's always about consent. What I hear from the panel today is that I think the central kind of theme of data governance is still that data governance wants to kind of empower the end data producers, which is end users ourselves. And I'm not going to talk about ownership because that makes me sound like a legal amateur, which I am anyway. But it's also about responsible sharing, responsible prompting, and so on and so forth. So conscious of time, I want to already open up the floor for questions. Yes, please.
I'm scared right now. I'm very scared. It's not for me, right? For you. No, I knew that. I knew that. Yeah, so I'm joking.
But we didn't discuss about the big tech companies because they are the ones actually holding all this data. And it's more of a leftist literature, but I still value it in the sense that this technofederalism, like our friend Olowookere, I believe it's quite relevant, especially when it comes to the data. Thank you. When it comes to data governance issue, this is one thing, and this is to Ettore. You wanted it, or to all of you. Yes. And also about the AI governance. One thing, it is about prompting as well, but it's also mostly about the outcomes. And there's a huge literature coming out about the data about the AI governance and auditing. There are lots of AI tools being used, but are they really functioning properly? This is the governance part, somewhat, and also auditing part. At the end, we have to audit how these things are going on. And I believe there could be even more of a role there to play through blockchain and so on. So I wonder your views, especially probably the second question, Odun, it may come to you about this AI governance and auditing part. So it's not just about initial architecture of how we design the things, because this is how it is understood mostly in the IT sector, but it is more than that. At the end, we should be able to test whether people are not treated differently through AI tools, and there has to be mechanism, and this has to be a continuous mechanism for this. So thank you.
So shall I start? Yeah, please. Well, so Ahmed, so thank you for the question. It's very clever and nice as usual. Well, I didn't want to speak about big tech straight away, but I said so, speaking about a digital fingerprint, a face recognition, and so forth. That's a problem, and they have our data. We gave our data, and we are very happy. So some years ago, a friend of mine gave me a draft of a book, and he told me, Ettore, so I wrote this book, with a friend of mine of UNESCO. What do you think about it? Can you read it? So I read it. It was a very nice plot, story of love and so forth in the future. So something like in 100 years. And it was a repetition, it was a repetition, a little bit of 1982 of Orwell. So the big guys that is checking us and so forth. I said, well, the plot is interesting. So my comment was, the plot is interesting, it's nice, I like it, but it's old. It's not updated. Why? He asked me. Do you use Facebook? Yes. Are you informing the big guy of all your movement with the pictures? Yes. I'm there, I'm even having dinner, I'm at the seaside and so forth. So what are you doing? They are not controlling you. You are allowing them to control yourself because you are giving all the data. So that's the difference. So we are happy to share our data, to let them circulate, because we want.
We are forced to do so. It's not necessarily.
No, we are not always forced.
Because they are the ones who are in the market anyway.
Yeah, but for example, I don't use Facebook, and I don't share data with Facebook. I use LinkedIn. They know that I'm here, for example, but because I want to give this information. Yeah, because it's interesting for my profession, my academia, and so forth. So we have to change a little bit the parameter of viewing the things, because we are victim, but we are as well author of the violations that we want to, in my opinion. Yeah. Regarding the audit, may I answer as well to the second question very briefly? So you were speaking about auditing corporate governance, right? Especially. So something that is very interesting, I will be super quick. It's another article that I proposed to Milano Finanza that is, in my opinion, very innovative. Sorry if I don't look very humble. But it's interesting, is the quantum computing. So now we don't have the possibility to decrypt some kind of language because we don't use, we don't have the mass use of quantum computing. But in a couple of years, all the crypto messages will be really clear, transparent, so they can be read without any problem. And this one will be a problem of privacy for the companies. Not just the one that are sharing data, but the one that are operating normally. So, for example, I'm president of the board of supervisors of Baker Hughes, that is a huge company, American, that is operating in drilling, turbo machineries, and so forth. And every day we are facing this issue. With the quantum computing, all the privacy, all the lack of transparency in terms of not sharing of data will be discovered. And we have to analyze already this problem, and this problem will be important as well for the impact value of the companies, because we have to analyze in terms of profit, in terms of mechanisms that are used, which one is the value actually of the company, because in 2 years, for example, all the project and the secret, the confidentiality, will be very easily discovered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Just to add a little to that, I'll be talking more on the data governance, trying to answer the data governance question. So there's a lot of talk and a lot of research around humanistic digital governance going on right now, where the governance regime will focus more on the people that are supplying their data. I mean, we unwittingly supply our data because it's free. And there's this saying, I'm sure everyone knows it, that if you're not paying for a product, you are the product. So because we feel that data is is free, you just give it to them and they use it for your own use. So if we have, there are talks around appointing some form of trustees, right? An entity that would monitor your data, the data you have willingly submitted, willingly, quote and unquote, right? Willingly submitted to the big tech, and then there's a trustee that would track how that data is used and would obviously search for your own cut from whatever data, whatever use they put that data to. So that could be encouraging. How that would work, I do not know. It's a very fancy idea right now, but I don't know how it's going to be implemented. Yeah.
And Alex, you have some You want to add something? Okay. I actually understand when you said they forced us exactly like Odun said. If you want to use it and the product is for free, it's probably written in terms and conditions that you consent to. But of course you can choose not to use it, as Ettore said. I just don't use it. But I also understand you kind of have to use it because of social pressure, because you have to be linked. But then as soon as you use it, you have to consent. So it's kind of, yes, you do consent, but it's forced consent. So is it real consent or not? I'm not the expert in judging, and I'll leave it to whoever wants to pick this question up, or any opinion from the participants, or any further questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. How are we doing with timing? I know we're... Thank you for my amazing panelists. Thanks again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.